I told my reps this last week, when we look at Solar Pros, like most of us come from other companies. When we look at Solar Pros as a whole, like I don't expect Solar Pros to just be number one. I expect it to absolutely dominate the entire industry, right? Solar Pros is going to be the standard, right? Reps are going to be coming to you guys in flocks. When I look around this industry, there's so many companies that are out there struggling. There's so many crappy leaders out there, crappy cultures, or companies just simply not paying their reps. That when we do things the right way and we implement things effectively, we're going to be able to provide a ton of value, and you guys are going to be getting reps in flocks. We need to keep growing and keep putting in that time and effort to solidify ourselves as the apex, the best company out there, the standard for the industry. And so what I created was kind of a blueprint on how we can build an organization, right? And how we can continue putting in that work. Now, building an organization is something that we all have to do, and we have to do it the right ways, because you can't just have one or two groups doing it the right way, right? We have to all do it together. If you have one team somewhere that's providing a crappy experience for reps, or providing or not paying customer, or not paying reps, or providing a crap experience for customers, it's going to hurt the entire brand. And so I implore all of you guys to implement these things and start giving reps a great experience and providing a good value for the customers out there. And if we keep doing that, we're going to scale to infinite. Like we're going to absolutely dominate. And it's really exciting to be a part of. So let me share my screen, and cool. Let me know if you guys can see this. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So building an organization with winning culture, right? These are the topics I want to go over today. What a successful region looks like, recruiting quality talent, good versus bad reps, onboarding reps, winning culture, so on, right? Now, depends on where you guys are at in your business and in your career. Some of these things you're going to be able to implement from day one. Some of these things, I would say write down and implement weeks, months, or even a year down the road, just whenever you piece through it. But basically, I want to take this as like a step-by-step process on how to build an organization effectively, right? So just to tell you guys a little about me, I'm going into my 9th year in the industry. I did 8 years in pest control, right? Like, and if you guys know anything about pest, you know the grind that I went through to do it. Now, I initially got into the industry just because I was not good at talking to people. I wanted to get better at it. And so I figured the best way to do it is get into door-to-door sales. Saw the potential, started growing, started recruiting, had a lot of mistakes I made along the way. But my last year in pest control, I managed just over 300 reps. We did 20,000 network accounts, about $15 million of recurring revenue. But at the end of the summertime, I really just didn't like the direction the company I was going. So I had to walk away from all of those reps, from that company, everything I had built. I did that in last December. I met with 12 different owners of companies, solar companies, before I found Solar Pros. And I met with Josh, and I talked to Brett Bushey, and ended up signing in January. And since then, it's just been scaling, doing whatever we can to scale the business effectively and lay that groundwork down. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, to walk away from all my guys and basically have to restart. Everything I built, all the hours I'd put in, I had to simply leave and start from square one, right? And that was very challenging because, I had put in all this work. I could just sit back and make really good money there. But it is cool now being able to do things the right way and lay that foundation the correct way. And so that's really what I want to take away from this, is to be able to provide a value and a blueprint to hand you guys, so that way you guys can do the same thing and help grow your own organizations. All right, so I want to start off with what a winning culture looks like. So it's very easy to go into a team and look like, okay, is this team going to be successful or not, right? And so look at their mindset. How do they talk? Are they like dominating? Like, hey, we can beat anyone. We can compete against anyone, right? Like those are signs of teams that are going to go out and perform. Are they putting in that time and effort to get better, right? I like to call it like a growth minded. And so what I mean by that is like, are they training? Outside of just knocking doors, are they bettering themselves, right? Like my team here, vast majority of the team meets every morning to go work out. We all lift at the same gym together. We all train together every single night, right? On the weekends, I lead financial literacy trainings, different things like that that are not only going to help the guys, with sales, but help the guys in life, right? And they're just constantly trying to better themselves. Now, in morning meeting, are people attentive, right? Are they paying attention? Are they on their phones, half asleep, whatever? Or are they sitting there on time and paying attention during meeting? Now, I'll touch more about this later, but big thing with meeting is make sure you guys are providing value and content in every single meeting, because if not, it's not worth it to be there. So make sure you guys are providing value. Then on top of that, a winning team's going to hang out a lot outside of work, like do things on the weekends, hang out in the morning. Like we like to do a lot of cookouts throughout the week, or, do something fun on the weekends where it's like bowling, right? Play football, stuff like that. That's just fun to get guys and build that camaraderie. That's going to help make guys want to stick around longer. If you do these things correctly, you can create a strong culture in your group. And a culture is really what a lot of these people are looking for. I talk to a lot of people from other companies that just don't have a strong connection with the people that they work with. And so they call me because they have friends on our team and they're like, hey, like I've tried to recruit these guys and they literally won't leave your group. There's got to be something going on with your group. Like, I just want to figure out what it is. People will be asking to come work with you if you can create a strong culture in your organization, right? Now, when it comes to recruiting, obviously building an organization, the recruiting is like the basics, right? You need to recruit to help scale, right? Over 90% of my reps so far at Solar Pros have come from other solar companies. I don't think you guys understand, like this is the first solar company you guys have worked at. You guys are so blessed. There's a lot, and I touched on this earlier, there's a lot of companies that aren't doing things the right way. And those people are low-hanging fruit. A lot of companies don't have good cultures, don't have good systems, and simply just don't pay their reps. You provide that for them, people are going to want to come here. And so I find it significantly easier to just recruit other solar reps. It's actually incredibly easy. And so go after those guys. Go after the strong performers at other companies to help add value to your organization. Now, with that being said, like, dude, people are going to want to work here. Be selective. When I first started in door to door, it was funny on the East Coast. Our East Coast region was branded as like the worst average rep ever. Like we were on a hiring basis of, hey, did they have a pulse? Okay, cool, they're hired on. And I signed 36 guys my first year and over 100 my second year, and we were able to pump a ton of volume in it, right? Ton of reps, but those reps did terrible on average. And so it really took me until my third year to realize like, hey, maybe I shouldn't just hire anyone. I should be extremely selective with who I'm hiring. And as soon as I did that, my amount of reps shrink tremendously and my production more than doubled. And so be selective with the reps that you are recruiting. Okay. I like to look at like, okay, will this rep add value to my organization? And what I mean by that is like, dude, don't recruit the rep that's like getting drunk on weekdays or going out partying or whatever, right? Like recruit the reps that are, and I'll talk more about good and bad qualities in a second, but recruit the reps that are reading books, that are trying to get better, that are working out, right? That are eating right, that are putting in those habits to better themselves, because that's someone that's going to help pull everyone else in your team up. I see so many people trying to rationalize reasons why someone could be successful. Oh yeah, I think you could probably go out and set a couple appointments a week. Like people are going to look the best in your interview. When you're interviewing them, they're selling themselves to you. And if they're not like perfect in the interview, don't hire them. Like just don't, because they're not going to be worth it on the team. If we become selective, you will get more reps. More reps will want to come to you because you're picking and choosing which reps you want, and you can create that standard. Now, these are some examples. I know this slide's kind of a lot, but are good and bad reps when I'm interviewing. Okay. So like the biggest thing I look for is growth at a previous company, right? And so I look at like my own history, right? Before I started selling, I was a lifeguard. No one is going to look at someone like a lifeguard who's paid to watch people swim and not talk to people and be like, oh yeah, he's going to be a freaking superstar door-to-door sales rep. Like no one looks at that and sees it. But if you look into like how I performed in that industry, you know, when I started, within 6 months, I was running the pool. I was a head swim coach. I was a lifeguard instructor. I was a head swim instructor. I grew in that position very quickly. And that's evidence that shows that, hey, I'm a positive and hardworking person. And so my employer and my boss is probably going to promote me very quickly. And the other side of things that goes hand in hand is longevity, right? If people are bouncing around companies, that's a huge, huge red flag, right? And so if someone's like bouncing around companies, I ask them like, hey, why? Like, why have you moved around so much? Listen to their answers. If they're blaming other people, oh, this manager sucked because of this. Oh, this guy didn't like me because of this. Like, right? Us as managers, we love those positive, hardworking reps, and we hate those negative, lazy reps, right? And so if multiple of their managers before hated them, they're probably not the hardest working, or they're really negative attitudes. And so take that in consideration. Other good things, evidence of pushing through adversity. One of the questions I ask when recruiting is tell me about a time that you did something challenging and wanted to quit, but you stuck it out, right? And I listen to their answer, right? Is it a very surface level answer, or is it really not detailed, or is it really not even challenging, right? Or my favorite is when someone tells me about a time that they actually did quit. And listen to their answers and understand them, right? If these people are able to think quickly and respond intelligently, that's probably a pretty good sign, because our job is thinking on our feet, right? And so if they're taking really long time to come up with answers, they're probably going to struggle when you're selling, right? When you're in a home, when you're knocking on doors, when people are asking you the most off the wall questions, you have to be able to answer quickly and efficiently, right? And then the other side of things is that rep asking me questions or not, right? I interview a lot of people that like, they don't have any questions. Really, they're just like, yeah, whatever. They don't care. They're not caring or putting time into it. I know when Jordan originally interviewed me, dude, I probably asked the man 100 questions. We had like 5 or 6 rounds of interviews. Then I sat down and talked to Josh outside of Chicken and Pickle for over an hour. It's like I'm drilling them with questions, because I'm like, dude, if I'm putting my time and effort into something, it better be worth my time. And so I'm drilling them to find out more information. So listen to those people. Right? If they're asking good questions, good sign. If they're not asking good questions, terrible sign. Okay. Now, once you get the people in the door, onboarding the reps is super important. So having reps start at a designated time is crucial, right? I've had it before where reps, will just sporadically show up, and it becomes extremely challenging to train them effectively, right? Because you'll have one person that starts 2 weeks before, and they're at a different place in the pitch. Someone that shows up today, I'm teaching them how to stand at the door, which is useless to the people that have been here for a month, right? Like have them have a set time that everyone shows up. It's like for me, I like to do the first Sunday of the month. Every month we bring on a whole new group, right? And then we have someone designated to be there to hold those reps' hands. First day, working on the apps, how to stand on the doors, right? The brand, everything. And then we can slowly progress through it. And anyone that's been there for more than a month is in a whole separate meeting, right? Because they don't need to have that time for it. But this is going to help your training and your onboarding significantly better, okay? The first day that everyone shows up, I like to have a big goal setting meeting, okay? We sit down, we talk through the goals, we talk through the standards, we talk through the expectations of the team. So that way they're clear. That way someone can't be like, oh, I'm sorry, like I didn't know I had to knock this late. Or I'm sorry, I didn't know I had to go straight out from meeting to the doors. Because we're going to tell them that on literally the first day. And we're going to pass out a sheet with all the standards and expectations on it. So that way they have it, right? In that meeting, we're going to identify goals. Right? Goals for the team, goals for that small group, goals for the region, goals for the company, and goals individually, right? And so I will ask them what their goal is, how they want to do it, and why, right? And so what I mean by that is like, okay, cool. What's your goal? Let's say we're bringing on a summer program where it's 4 months. What do you want to accomplish by the end of the 4 months? How many deals do you want to have done? How much money do you want to make? What is it? Then how are you going to do that? Okay. Are you going to train every single night? Are you going to, show up early, pick the brain of the top rep, like whatever, right? How are you going to accomplish this? And then why? Like drill down into this. There's more reasons behind things. Like don't take their surface level answers of like, oh, I just want to make money because I'm broke. Okay. Why do you want to make money? What do you hope to accomplish with it? How much money you want to make? What do you want to do with that? Let's talk more into it. Get to the root of the issue, right? Because that's going to hold more weight than anything else. And the last thing I like to ask them, and I want to define out for every single person, is what they'll do when facing adversity. Now, this is important because our job is challenging. It is very challenging. You guys have all probably heard the term the solar coaster, where there's extreme highs and extreme lows. What are they going to do when they're facing those challenges, when they're going through hard times? And I write all of this stuff down. Then throughout the season, whether they're doing year round, summer, whatever, I'm going to meet with them once a month and we're going to track through everything. Hey, are you on track for your goals? Why or why not? Hey, how can we adjust the goals for this next month or this next couple of weeks, right? Hey, is this still your reason why? Hey, are you doing this every single night like you told me you would? Or if someone's struggling and they're going through a hard time or a rough patch, right? They're going through a rut. I'm going to sit down with them like, hey, you told me in the beginning that when you're facing adversity, you're going to start knocking earlier. You're going to knock late. You're going to shadow this person or you're going to train with this. Like you're going to do this. Have you been doing that? Why or why not? How can we help get you better? Right? And we're going to define this out and we're going to bring it up every single meeting that we have. Right? And we're going to have that in a cohesive manner for them. Okay. This is going to help your production tremendously. Right. And this is going to get the reps to like you better and feel more connection with it because you're going to be asking them for these things. You're going to get to understand the reps better because of it. Now, on it, when you're creating winning culture, I think the biggest thing is setting proper expectations. So we're all salesmen. Whether we're selling solar in a house or we're selling someone else on selling solar, right? Like it is very easy to overpromise and underdeliver. And that is why sales reps get such a bad representation. Now, my theory of thought is I would rather underpromise and overdeliver every time. I might miss out on a few reps, right? But my rep experience is going to be better. I had a manager underneath me at my last organization that would king of overpromising, right? Overpromising. And he was really good at recruiting, but he had so much fall off because he promised the world and couldn't deliver. And so if you are going to promise something, you have to 100% deliver it. If you can't, if at that time you don't know if you can 100% deliver it, don't promise it. Just don't even bring it up, right? It is very easy for us to get excited and be like, oh, dude, we're going to have this and that and this. And it's like, dude, if you can't provide that now, like just don't even promise it. And this is going to help your rep experience get significantly better, right? Then when I'm sitting down with reps, I explain the vision, right? At the beginning, I'm explaining the vision of where our region's going to go, right? And I ask them, how do you see yourself playing a role here? So, for example, I just brought on like a whole team here on the East Coast from another solar company. And a few of their upper guys like sat me down the other night and were like, hey, we got some ideas how we can fix this, but we want to hear your vision for the future, right? And I talked through the vision. I'm like, hey, this is how I expect things to progress. This is how I expect to grow. And by the end of that conversation, they were so excited. They're like, cool, I think we can add value with this. I think we could do this. This is how I see myself playing a role. And those guys' production have skyrocketed because of that. They feel valued on the team. They see themselves being a part of it. right? It's not some random organization. It's their team. They're building it together. Like, we're all doing this, and they feel valued on the team, and they feel a role that they can play on it. They're going to work significantly harder for that team and that vision. Then put talent in positions, right? Empower them. If you have quality guys that can train or lead or manage or whatever at a high level, put them in those spots, right? Like, for me, I have 2 guys that run all my trainings because they're freaking amazing trainers, right? And so I put them in there. They love the team. They have so much value on the team for it, because whenever the team's producing, it's because of them. They get so excited about it, and they want to continue adding value to the team because they feel a sense of identity on it. And so empower those leaders to put into places of leadership, right? This is going to help you guys a ton down the road too, in the sense where eventually you're going to have to replace yourself. You're going to want to be starting other teams. And it's easy to take those people that are running part of your program underneath you into running their own team. And it's just stepping stones to get that. Then one big thing I like to talk about is like praise in front of people and criticize in private. This is one big thing that I'm very big on. It's, every single day I'm shouting out people. Hey, you did a great job. Hey, you're crushing it. Hey, shout out to this person. They had their PR. Hey, they knocked the most doors, right? Get them excited. It's going to make them feel valued. And then if you have any issues, criticize in private, right? It's like, sometimes guys' knocks counts will be lower, or they're, by showing up late to meeting. And I'll ask him at the end of the meeting, I'm like, hey, excuse me, like, do you mind staying after for a second? And me and him will just sit down and have a conversation together. If you criticize in front of people, they're going to feel so bad about themselves that a lot of times they're going to end up quitting because of that. Make sure you're criticizing in private and praising in front of everyone. All right. With creating a strong culture on your team. Biggest thing, dude, like I would say, is like show love. Okay. And like, I mean that genuinely, like, actually care about your reps. Like, outside of just like the dollar figures, the money, the production, whatever, care about your actual reps. Like love them, support them, however you can. Like, reps are going to have issues. We all have problems, right? In our personal lives, work, whatever. Actually care about those things. Listen to them, right? Don't just talk about work. I help out so many people with their relationships, their finances, right? They're working out, whatever it is, like outside of the job. If you just talk about work, right, and you're just like, hey, knock more doors, they're going to think that you just see them as a dollar figure. You don't care about that person. But the more you care about them outside of the job, the more they're going to want to follow you. The more they're going to want to support you and stick with you, right? Spend time with the reps outside of work, right? And so what I mean by that is like, dude, do stuff with them, right? Like I love to go play golf with reps, or go bowling with them, or just like hang out with them, go grab lunch and just pick their brains, have conversations with them to get to know them as a human being. It's going to show that you're a human being and you actually care about these people, which is going to help your rep experience tremendously. And then it's way easier to help get them to understand the vision, the ideas that you have, and want to work towards those. And then listen to them. They're going to tell you everything you need to hear, right? Like, they're going to tell you issues that are going on the team, right? They're going to tell you things that pop up, right? Issues that they're having, and actually genuinely take an interest in it and listen to what they have to say. And then the last thing is like track the stats. Okay. So in creating a strong culture, like you need to track the stats. Like I look at them every single day, and you can see trends in them, right? You can see, okay, this person's production's is slowly going down. They were knocking 60 doors a day last week. Now they're knocking 30 doors a day or whatever, right? Like you can see that, and then go to those reps like, hey, I noticed this, is everything okay? And have that conversation with them, because you're seeing those issues popping up, and you're only going to notice that by looking at the actual stats. All right. Incentivizing habits. So when you're tracking the stats, you're going to see periods of low production, right? Whether that's, right after lunch, late at night, Saturdays, and put incentives for that time period, right? So like, let's say it's Saturdays. One thing I like to do is create teams on Saturdays and have them compete, right? And do some fun little prize and just have them push each other to work harder, right? And we're creating incentive about it, and it's going to make it more fun, and people are going to work harder because they're competing against their peers. And then create incentives around the standards you want. So whatever standards you have on the team, sometimes people are going to be a little more laissez-faire. So one of the ones I notice a lot is like reps not knocking late. You might have the standard of, hey, knock till 9 o'clock. But if you actually look at the stats, most of your reps are probably leaving at 8 or 8:15. Let's create an incentive around that time period to help encourage them to knock later. One of my favorite incentives for this would be a hot potato incentive. And what that means is you put it out a little bit before. So let's say everyone's leaving at 8 o'clock. I'm going to put it out 8 or 7:15, 7:30. I'm going to say, hey, $10 for every set for the rest of the night goes into a pot. Whoever makes the last set of the night with a bill, they get the whole pot. And this is going to encourage people to start competing and knock later, because at the time, 8 o'clock, when they usually are going home, it's probably at $50, $60, $70. And they're going to work a little bit later so that way they can put up those sets to hopefully win that money. But then you also have those guys that are real competitive, who really want that money, that will knock till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And all this is doing is getting them more comfortable in knocking later, right? And so I like to talk about it like gamifying the job, right? Have fun out there. This is going to make it so they're not really thinking so much about the mundaneness of the fact that they just knocked all day, or they've been knocking all day for 6 months or whatever. They're going to push hard for those next hour or so because they're competing against someone else, or they're competing on a team and they don't want to let their team down. So create games, incentives, competitions around that to let the reps have fun out there. Okay. Now, one thing with that is put attainable incentives out there. Okay. If I've seen teams before where they put some crazy incentives, and it's you might be setting 50 a day and you're like, hey, set 100 a day and we'll go out to dinner. It's like, dude, no, they're not going to hit that. That's not motivating anyone. If you put out a bunch of incentives that they don't hit, it's going to make them have a losing mentality. So put an incentive out there that's going to require work. Yeah. But it's definitely attainable for them to hit. And then I would say you as the leader needs to go out there and actually hit it, right? Make sure they hit it. I remember in pest control, I was out, we did this incentive and I was like, we really team culture is dropping. We need to put out some incentives for us to hit. And we were behind on this one, and I knocked till 10:30 that night to make a last sale. And I never knocked that late. And just to make sure our team hit it so I could buy them dinner, right? Team shows up to Chili's, pumped, super ecstatic, because we just hit this incentive when we won. And now we're creating that winning mentality, right? Go out there and earn it for your reps. So that way you can create that mentality with it. Now, I'll touch on this pretty quickly. I know we're over 30 minutes already. So identifying bad reps. So negative reps in the team will pull down everyone. And we need to fix those or get rid of those. So some identifying factors, if they're late or they just openly miss meeting, that's a huge red flag. Now, with that being said, as a leader, you need to make sure you provide value every single day to meeting, so it's actually worth being at. If you do that, you shouldn't have many people late, but you might have those few occasional people that show up late, and those you need to sit down and have a conversation with, and we'll touch on that. Or they're not paying attention during meeting. They're half asleep. They're on their phones, whatever, right? And then when we go back to the tracking stats, look at their knock counts. How is their knock counts? Are they consistently the lowest on the team? Usually it's a pretty big red flag. Or on the other side of things, were they number one and now they're dropping, right? And so identify those things and notice those people, and you need to correct that behavior, right? And so biggest thing I do for that is just have a one-on-one sit down with them. Have that meeting with them, bring up what they talked about, their goals are, their how, their why, what they're going to do through adversity. Ask them what's going on. Listen to them, right? Don't make assumptions on it. I struggled with this early on. Like if a rep was late on the doors, somebody would call them, what the heck's going on? They might have got a flat tire or something. That's okay, right? It sucks, but it's not like they're skipping out. And so have that conversation with them and actually genuinely listen. Ask questions about it. Figure out the root of the issue and see if you can fix it. So bring back up their goals, create a strategic plan to fix it. And if they don't change, you have to fire them. Your duty is to the team above everything else. Firing people is very challenging. It's tough, but you have to understand that if someone is a negative influence on the team and pulling others on the team down, they're hurting the entire team. So you need to do what's right for that team and cut that negative person. Now, I try to do whatever I can to fix it before it gets to that situation, but sometimes it has to be. The last thing I want to touch on is systemizing your business. Okay, it's a little more happier. The reason I did this at the very end is I find so many people out there that want to systemize before they work. You need to put in the work first. Once the work is there, you're working 80, 90-hour weeks, you're putting in that effort, then you can systemize those activities along the way, right? But if you're not putting in that many hours, there's no point in building these systems. And you're utilizing systems as just laziness. Put in the work first and then systemize the business. But this is really how you systemize the business. Understanding the return on investment of your time. Where do you get the best ROI on your time? Is it in recruiting? Is it managing? Is it selling? Is it training? Like, what are you the best at? And put your time doing that. Then I would say empower your reps to take over the other responsibilities. For me, like, I get the best return on recruiting, right? I know I can bring people into the system, plug them in, and they're going to be successful. So I spend majority of the day recruiting, right? And I empowered reps to take over the training aspect, the area management aspect, and have them offload those activities. So that way they feel a place, they feel an identity on the team, and I can focus on what moves the needle the most. Then outsourcing your small tasks. So at my previous employer, I had an assistant for many years that helped with everything. Because it got to the point where I was spending 20, 30 hours a week on fixing small issues and doing paperwork. And so I had an American assistant, I had a VA too, and that can do all of those things, right? Fix little issues with reps, like onboarding, tech issues, all those things. Do my expense reports, put together my spreadsheets, everything, right? I got to the point where, they were booking my reservations for things, doing part of my taxes, like literally everything. So I could focus on just growing the business, right? But I would say biggest thing with that is make sure you are working before you build out those systems, or else you're going to be wasting your money. Find the inefficiencies in your business, right? Like, where along the process is there failure? Are you hiring a ton of reps, but a lot of them aren't showing up? Cool, well, let's fix that. There's something wrong with the onboarding process, or something wrong with the end of your recruiting process. Okay, are you sitting in a lot of recruiting meetings, but they're not actually signing? There's a problem there. Let's fix it, right? Are a lot of reps showing up but not actually making sales? Cool, let's fix that. Find the inefficiencies in your business, and that comes with tracking everything along the way, and then build systems to help fix those issues, right? Build systems to help standardize your business, so that way you have a higher percentage of people get from in a meeting with you to being successful at the job, right? Because at the end of the day, that's where our whole goal is. And so find these things, fix them, and this will help systemize your business a ton. And the last thing is pay your freaking reps. If you empower someone, you put them in a position, pay them. They need to get paid for their worth. So many people join companies, then they don't get paid and they immediately want to leave. Pay your freaking reps, and this will help keep your reps. All right, what questions you guys got for me? That's my whole presentation.
That was fire. Thanks, Kenny.
Preach. Loved it.
Great job, Kenny.
I do have a question. So your reps consistently knock more doors than probably 90% of solar pros. How do you get them to knock more doors?
Yeah, so biggest thing we do is focus on inputs, right? So in our job, there's a lot of things we can't control, right? We can't control how many people open up the door. We can only do so much control how many people actually set and then sit and then close, right? Let's focus on our inputs. The biggest thing and the easiest thing to track is just knocks, right? And so every single week I send out the knock count for last week. Hey guys, great job to this person. They knocked the most doors. Hey, you knocked more doors than you did the week before. Let's keep pushing. Let's get these numbers up. Every single morning, we're tracking that. Hey, this person knocked 200 doors yesterday. Congratulations. Like, you did a great job. And what you'll find is those people that knock the most doors are going to have a lot of times the most sets. And it might not be that same week, but over the course of the entire year or entire summer, month, whatever, the people that knock the most are going to make the most money. And so I would say incentivize the inputs, incentivize the controllables, and focus on knocking on the doors. That kind of answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, Kenny, I was curious. So you were saying, like, when you do like new hires and you're onboarding groups, what you do is you like have like training dates, right? So you said, I think you said it was the first Sunday of the month, right?
Yeah.
So how do you keep guys engaged and involved? Say you hire them the second Sunday of the month. So, like, how do you keep guys engaged and involved? Like while you're essentially waiting to hold that like new hire training, you know what I mean? So you have 2-3 weeks before actually sitting down to do like, you know, the training. Like, how do you keep guys engaged throughout that process?
No, that's a fantastic question. So the biggest thing is going to be you have to have touch points with that, right? Like if you hired someone and then you didn't talk to them for 3 weeks, like they're going to fall off, right? And so you have to give them tasks where it's like, hey, learn the script, right? Memorize the script, memorize the objections, memorize the rebuttals. Cool. Let's train twice a week until then. And we're going to FaceTime and get them through it. And I'm going to get them real excited, right? Every time I'm like, dude, you're doing fantastic, man. You're going to freaking crush it. Like I'm getting them excited about it. And so that way it's going to do two things. One, it's going to help keep them engaged. But two, it's going to make it so when the time they get out there, they can hit the ground running, right? So many of our guys like throw reps on the doors without any training, and that's just setting them up for failure, right? When I first started selling, I had zero training. They handed me the script and told me to get out there. We had over 50% of our reps quit within the first 3 weeks. And it was terrible, right? And so we need to increase the amount of training we give the reps, and you'll have higher production. And so I would say, to answer your question, create touch points with them, set up a schedule to train with them, and give them tasks to complete.
Love that. That makes sense. Hey, I had another question too, because you kind of were hitting on like, hey, make sure you add value every day at core at your meeting, so that way people feel like the need to come in because they're getting something from it. So, you know, as a guy that's been in the industry for a while, like how do you, or what do you do to make sure that you're adding value every day? Like, do you have like a cadence for each day, or like, where's your brain at when you're like, hey, how do I add value? Because like, you know, it gets to the point how I feel like sometimes like, man, there's only so many trainings I can do. There's only so many like talk points I can give them, right? Like, so how do you keep the guys like excited and keep adding value to them, like with doing 5-6 meetings a week year round?
Yeah, no, fantastic question. So what I like about sales is an art form, not a science. And what I mean by that is there's no one way to do things, and people are going to have a different perspective on things. And so you can go through, like, it'd be pretty easy to come up with 30, 60, 90 days of training, just because it's like the words, the objections, the tonalities, right? How to smile, how to stand, like simple things like that. Like fairly easy to come up with that. Then you can start training on like the higher level things, right? Like, you know, the different types of people, how to engage people in different conversations, how to utilize your eyes, your hands, like different levels of selling. But then I could lead a training on that. I could probably come up with 180 days of training. And then you're going to give a different perspective on things. So it's like, you're going to sell differently. And so, okay, cool. Well, let's have Sam teach on different aspects here. We might give you the range for 30 days or whatever. Like, hey, come up with trainings on all of this for 30 days. And so what I like to do is empower a lot of those reps to get put in those positions. The other side of things is after 180 days, a year, whatever, most of those reps are going to be transitioning into leadership to where they're replicating that and they are training reps then too. At that point, they should understand a lot of the higher level stuff. They should obviously understand the basics and they'll be able to teach it. So because I structure the time that the guys come in, guys that have been doing it for over 100+ days, some people that are proficient at it, I might plug them in with a brand new group and be like, hey, can you teach this guy the basics? Right? And then I'll be like, okay, cool. You're good at like a little bit of higher level stuff. Can you teach it guys after 1 month? And I'll plug them into those positions to where like most of the guys aren't there for 2 years learning the same things, right? Because if they are, they're not going to show up to meeting. They don't care, right? And so put them into those positions that lead or empower them to help coach the younger reps. Does that kind of make sense?
100%. Yeah. Just giving different perspectives and you're essentially empowering guys. Here's topics and just kind of letting them like kind of give their 2 cents on it.
Exactly. Yep. And then the other side of things is like, dude, you need to like grow yourself. So like you need to be reading, you need to be training yourself. And that's going to constantly give you new training materials. Like a lot of my guys here, like we have a whole like blueprint on training, but a lot of the guys have, started doing some online training courses and they're creating a whole new script, like a whole new training concept that we're going to be implementing probably 3 to 4 months down the road. Once guys really understand the basics of selling, a little more higher level stuff. And so that's what I think is important is having the constantly training yourself so that way you have new content to train the reps on.
Love that.
What else can I help answer, guys?
I got one for you. So you mentioned that a lot of your recruits that you bring in are people from other companies. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm wondering kind of what's the approach to getting a hold of people that are working with other companies. I guess specifically like right now, I have a lot of people reaching out to me and kind of asking about the situation. I guess what's like, are you hopping on calls with these guys? Are you taking them out to dinners? I guess, and more specifically to actually make the jump, right? Because a lot of people I feel like are somewhat afraid of fully taking the leap just because of previous circumstances or, anything like that. What's kind of your approach to that?
Yeah. So obviously if you're in person, so the easiest way to recruit or easiest way to sell is going to be in person, right? So, I'll take them out to lunch or something like that. Then if you can't do that, you can do like a Zoom call or a phone call. And so I sit down with them and have a conversation. I ask about the pain points. I ask them what they like about it, why they choose that company. And I ask them like, dude, like, why are we here? Like I was on a call with a guy last night, just 25 reps, the company. And I'm just like, dude, like, sounds like you like the company that you're at, but it's like, why are we here? And he's like, well, I honestly don't like this, this, and this. And I like that you guys have this. I'm like, cool. Well, what's holding you back from making a leap? Okay, this. And they will straight up tell you these things. It's like, okay, well, I need to be here during this time period. I'm like, okay, cool. If I can provide these things that you liked at that previous company and take away the things you didn't like and still oblige like you wanted to be here during this time period, would that be something of interest for you? Yes. Cool. Well, let's make this happen. I believe in like transparency with it. The biggest way I recruit from other solar companies, I'm like, hey, dude, have you sold a deal recently? Most of them like, yeah. I'm like, cool. Let's just compare it apples to apples. We'll build it on your system, build it on ours, and we'll just look at it side by side. Vast majority of the situations, they're making $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000 more with us than they would at their previous company. And I'm like, so why are you still working there? Let's make this happen. And you can just start laying those ideas in their head. And a lot of those guys, especially if they're in a bigger position, I call it like planting the seed, and you're going to have numerous follow-ups with them. And eventually they're going to get frustrated and they're going to want to leave. And so the other side of things, like when you're recruiting, it's a long-term game, right? A lot of times you're not getting them assigned right then and there in the first meeting, or else you probably shouldn't be recruiting them. It's going to be a long-term game where you're constantly keeping up with them. So if they tell you no, don't burn that bridge. Constantly follow up them, see how they're doing, because eventually they're going to have some negative things go on at their company, and you can pounce that. And so keep those relationships there, keep them brewing, keep talking to them, and pounce whenever you see it. I know that's kind of a long answer for what needed to be a short answer, but did that kind of answer your question? Is there anything else I can expand upon?
Honestly, that's game, and that's the exact situation that's happening. It's been like a couple months in the making, and they've had some things go down, and it's a full team. So no, I appreciate that a lot, man. That's game.
Yeah, dude. And then like, bro, post your freaking wins. Like one of the last companies I was at, that was the biggest thing that they taught me was post your wins. Dude, like social media is crazy to me. Like if you just keep posting your wins, people think those are things like, even if you're installing one deal a freaking week, people are like, oh man, he's gotten so many installs are happening all the time, because all they're seeing is the wins. Then they start seeing those installs, they start seeing those checks come in, and they're like, dang, this company didn't pay me. Hey, this install messed up. I should go there. And so start posting that, and you're going to start putting more and more of those thoughts in their head.
Big time. I appreciate that, man.
Mm-hmm. What else? What else can I help answer for you guys? Cool.
What's your funnel like for getting like guys in interviews and onboarding and things of that nature? Like if you don't necessarily have like a super large network of friends, like not from Utah or something like that, where they're all already working door to door, they may be doing different jobs, or just kind of like starting from zero.
Mm-hmm. So let's say you don't know anyone, you're brand new to the country, you're trying to grow a region here. Dude, like I have a buddy in pest control that he would just recruit, it's a summertime program in pest. And so he would go out in the month of March and just shoulder tap on campuses and sign 20 to 30 people every year in that 1 month. Like, we knock on doors for a living. Don't be afraid to go knock on doors for recruiting. Like, recruiting is more valuable, in my opinion, than selling is. Because recruiting is money tomorrow, right? That's money for years to come. Whereas that one solar sale, you might be able to milk for a few referrals, maybe, but like that's just one sale then. I would say knock doors. I have spent probably $100,000 on social media advertising and different staffing agencies. A lot of them didn't really work out, to be honest. Almost all of my recruits have just come from word of mouth, working through friends, and then shoulder tapping, running into people on campuses and stuff. I like to, wherever I go, try to find people like, hey, this person I think would be good at this job or not, and go talk to those successful people. And then, like I said earlier, make sure you build good relationships with people. Build your brand about being honest and hardworking. If you do that, people will follow you. And that's one thing that really helped me was like, I was always the guy that just worked hard and shot people straight. Like, I'm going to be honest through the whole process, and people like that. And so even if you don't recruit them then, be like, dude, let's still stay in touch and comment on their stuff on Instagram, social media from now and again, and just stay in touch. And they will eventually reach back out to you and be like, dude, like I messed up. Let me come work with you. So to answer your question, I would say shoulder tap, talk to people at gyms, restaurants, waiters, stuff like that. Find people to it. And then you can also just start posting things on social media, and you'll probably have a bunch of people start hitting you up.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question exactly. Thank you.
Cool. Anything else I can help answer or talk through?
Yeah, I had a question. So like, you run a pretty large organization, and I'd imagine you're getting like hundreds of calls a day. Like, how do you kind of like time block like what to do, and like how do you manage your schedule, like with vetting 100 calls a day and pipeline management for guys and recruiting calls and putting together training and correlation structures and SOPs? Like, what does your day-to-day look like? Or like, do you have a calendar that you kind of live off of to help like keep yourself organized with just all the moving parts inside the business?
Oh yeah, no, great question. I average just over 10 hours of screen time on my phone a day. And so I'm on my phone constantly. I'm averaging about 6 hours of actual phone calls a day right now because I'm in growth phase, right? Like Jordan and Curtis led a training a few weeks ago on like, we're having a work-life balance. And I'm like, dude, I can't do that right now. Like I'm just grind mode, right? That's what I'm doing right now. To answer your question though, how you prioritize time, I think it really just comes like empowering your reps, right? Like I have reps that are significantly better setters than I am and that are running setting training. And then I'm tasking them with setting a setter playbook. They are creating a setter training manual and they report back to me on it. And I'm like, hey guys, let's get a week's worth of training written out. Can you have that to me, by tomorrow? And they will do it in their free time, start working on it. And I'm paying them for those things. And so that's going to offload that activity, right? Then with reps, I set the standard from the beginning, like, look, like only call me if you're with a customer or with a cop. Like something's going really bad or you need help selling this one specific customer. It's the only times you should be calling me. Outside of that, you can text me. And I can always respond to a text fairly quickly. But if it's something that can't be handled over text, be like, hey, it's not urgent, but could you call me when you get a second? And I'll call them whenever I can. But like if someone's with a customer or with a cop, like I'll hang up on a recruit, fix that issue, and then move on. And so I would say empower reps and prioritize your time and set that precedent with the reps.
Love that. So a kind of question off of that. So you're like leaning on your guys and the people within your organization to empower and essentially like ultimately promote. And I know you keep saying, hey, pay your reps, you pay the guys. Like, do you have like say you like, hey, you're going to have this guy start to run setter meetings. Are you paying them immediately for like that extra work they're doing? Or are you kind of going through like a discovery phase to see if like, hey, if it's going to work out for them, if it's something they're going to enjoy doing, or like when do you start to pay people when you empower and promote?
Yeah. So no, great question. So I sit down with them, have a conversation. Hey, I'm going to pay you this much. Like I'll be transparent with you guys. I pay them like a recruiter override on it to run the training. And like, these are the expectations and it has to be extremely clear. Okay. Don't just be like, hey, go train the guys. Right. I'm talking about like, you are shattering one person a day. You are knocking for 3 hours a day. You are, running every single training. You are creating a training blueprint. You're going to get this money on the guys. Everything closed at the branch. And so I want to set clear expectations. And then we're going to have continual follow-ups with those people that like I empower. Dude, I'm talking to them on like an hourly basis, constantly like helping them, supporting them. And following up with them on different things, right? And like we might sit down once a week, like, okay, cool, how's everything going? And if they are not performing and meeting those expectations, you need to put someone else in place or split that role. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
I know we don't have a ton more time. There's 5 minutes left in the meeting. It's been here for a couple minutes. Is there any last minute questions I can help answer?
Yeah, one last one for me. How'd you get so cold with your putter?
I suck at chipping, and so I only putt. If it's within 50 yards of the green, I'll putt it.
The Texas wedge?
Good old Texas wedge, baby.
Heck yeah, dude, I'm fire with it. But all right, well, we'll end it on that note. Please reach out to me on social media. I can send out, if you guys can get my number, whatever, text me. Look, follow me on Instagram. Hit me up if there's anything I can do to support you guys. I want to help grow this company as much as I possibly can. And so I'm willing to help whatever I can do to help you guys. Please let me know. I like to be an open resource to everyone. And so reach out to me if I can help you guys. But I really appreciate you guys taking the time today. Hope you guys crush the rest of the day in the week. And I look forward to meeting a lot more of you guys at some of these events.
Appreciate you, Kenny, man. Thank you big time.
Thanks, Kenny G.
Yeah, thank you.
Kenny.